Hi guys, this is my KamikaZane build that people have been asking about me on stream that I've been playing, and here's the build video for you guys. Now, what makes this build unique is you don't need any DLC gear. I do recommend DLC gear, but you don't actually need it for it to work and get going. Now, what we're doing is we're killing ourselves with a pestilence to stack groundbreaker. That's the main principle of what we're doing. Pestilence, you can kill yourself, damaging yourself stacks groundbreaker, and damaging enemies stack groundbreaker. We then break our Stinger Nova at the same time, which then procs groundbreaker on a mob, right? But we also have distributed denial. Now, distributed denial in general is a terrible skill, but in this build it works. Why does it work? Well, the thing about distributed denial with Nova shields is it doesn't give you an overshield, but it gives the barrier an overshield. So when barrier ends, it triggers a Nova, which is great. But barrier has a long duration. It has a duration of 14 seconds on cooldown, 24 seconds, which is, you know, long times for one Nova. And you're gonna be like, oh, that's bad. Well, what you can do is force barrier down. And how you force barrier down is by killing yourself. So you can throw barrier, kill yourself, get a Stinger Nova from the barrier, Stinger Nova from himself, and Pestilence Nova. Right? And then all these Stinger Novas get your benefits from splash damage, splash radius, white elephant, all of this feeds into groundbreaker. And then, so when you kill yourself, most of the time you'll get back up. And then you have a really stacked up groundbreaker that you can just one tap a mob with, or an enemy or a group. And then because we're doing so many sort of explosions and that, and we've got a lot of radiation effects, you instantly kill other mobs in the same process. So let's go through the gear that you're going to want for the build. You're going to want a pestilence. You're going to need a 390 pestilence because 390 affects the pestilence reload explosion. It's going to affect your Stinger Novas. It's going to be very good for the build. You really need the 390 anoint. It's very important for the build, right? Then Eruption is purely there for when we have multi-phases bosses, because multi-phases bosses don't get 390, so we have it there to debuff the boss, at which point we can then stack Groundbreaker and then shoot the boss, and that will increase the damage of Groundbreaker, our Novas, everything on the boss. So that's why we have an Eruption. Now we have a Cryo Sandhawk. Cryo Sandhawk is there to give to Clone. Clone's going to be our main way of triggering Calm Cool Collected. Right? You can trigger Calm Cool Collected yourself to get Clone back, things like that, but the main thing is Clone triggering Calm Cool Collected and keeping you alive with Salvation, because you can't really heal effectively, but there is a way. And then we're going to have a Face Puncher with 390. These two weapons, the Anoint doesn't matter too much, but both of these are going to want 390. Now I like a times 14 390 Face Puncher, but you can use whatever times 7 or times 14. But again, 390, very important. It's going to help Groundbreaker to one-shot mobs, because Groundbreaker gets affected by 390. So you're going to want that. Next, Stinger Shields. I don't recommend action skill start Stinger Shields personally. I prefer AAC Stinger Nova Shields, which makes them a little bit easier to farm. But the main reason why I like AAC Stinger Nova Shields is because our Groundbreaker gets action skill ends, right? So if you're against Wotan, for example, you can stack Groundbreaker on him, yourself, and mobs that he's spawning, and then shoot Wotan, and that's just going to make a massive Groundbreaker with AACs on top of it. So that's why I recommend AACs. Again, that's why both of these have AACs. Now we want a Recurrent Hex, because it's very good with Brain Freeze at freezing targets. And because we're a Calm Cool Collected build, we are throwing Recurrent Hex with Duct Tape Mods and Fractal Frags. So freezing targets is the aim of the game for Clone. This is going to help Clone. It's what we want. Now, here, artifact wise, you need a White Elephant, personally, for mobbing. For bossing, you don't. But even then, for bossing, White Elephant can be useful. But White Elephant is important in my opinion, because it helps you stack Groundbreaker when you kill yourself, because if you don't kill a mob but they get hit by the Nova shields, then White Elephant triggers, deals damage to them, that feeds into Groundbreaker. It's very good. And then passives for it, you're going to want just AoE damage, because that increases your splash radius, melee damage. I like radiation because, again, we do a lot of radiation with this build. And then here's where the only thing that really matters for DLC gear, because Zane normally requires Seeing Dead to work. Very important for Zane, but because we're not really kill skill reliant, we don't actually need to use Seeing Dead, which is really nice. Now you can see I'm using a Hustler, and I do recommend using a Hustler, because Hustler is going to make it easier for Clone to freeze targets. Not because Clone can crit when he's not allowed to, because Hustler passive effect doesn't affect Clone. It's unfortunate, but it's purely Zane only ability, right? But Hustler can get 5 in Brain Freeze. That's the big thing. It helps Clone freeze quicker with Brain Freeze, because you can get 10 out of 5 with Brain Freeze, which is massive. Also, Hustler will help you cryo quicker with a Sandhawk. If you can just shoot chest and it'll freeze someone relatively quickly with a Sandhawk. So that's also another benefit, but that's not the main reason why I prefer Hustler. It's the Brain Freeze that's the important part. But I have used this build with a Techspert. We don't use Sentinel. Techspert literally has 0 help to the build. And I've gotten through True Guardian takedown with this. So you're not too worried. It's the passive rolls. You're going to want splash damage, splash radius, and you actually do want extra skill damage. Extra skill damage affects the Pestilence. It affects your Best of Cold's damage. And it helps you stack Groundbreaker better. So, and also extra skill damage affects Clone, which means he does more damage, which is also good. So that's why I recommend worry more about the passives than the com, right? If you have a Zane com with splash damage, splash radius, and extra skill damage, that's going to be better than almost every other com, even if it's a Seeing Dead or something like that, because those passives are just mightily important. Now, quickly through the skill trees is, this just helps you shield recharge faster, means more Slinger Novas when you get hit by mobs. Brain Freeze, because we're a Calm Cool Collective build, just want to freeze better, all good. Rise to the occasion, we need to spend points somewhere, we need to get to Distributed Denial, and this helps with Healthy Gem, not too worried about it. Comfort Competence, the only thing I like about it is the accuracy, that's it. Best of Cold. Best of Cold actually does feed into Groundbreaker and gets action skill damage increases. So more damage into your Groundbreaker, everything you want, take it. Really expensive jacket. When status effects get applied to you, just want to get rid of them a little bit quicker, makes life a little bit easier. Refreshments. Refreshments is the only way, as the player Zane, you can heal with a face puncher. So that's good for you, just survivability, which this build sometimes has issues with it, but more often not too badly. Calm Cool Collected. Now, when you throw barrier and kill yourself and down barrier, it helps you get barrier back quicker, keeps clone duration up for longer, everything you want. And then, as I said, Distributed now to trigger more Stinger Novas. This tree, now we're just getting very standard Zane's max damage, right? Zane is basically Violent Momentum. That's where all his damage is. Violent Speed, buff stat. Salvation is there for clones so he can heal us. And then Death Roller Close buffs all of this. So simple. Also, Death Roller Close does buff Best Served Cold. It is a note to remember. Then this tree, very simple. Fractal Frags, Duct Tape Mod, more grenades, more chances to freeze. Again, just want to freeze. Also remember, when you freeze a target, they take extra melee damage. So when you freeze a target, got your face punch on them, they take extra damage, everything you want, right? More damage. Borrowed Time. Keep Clone up for longer so he has more chances to proc CCC while he's alive. And then if he procs it, resets his entire duration, and then rinse and repeat. That's the idea there. Immunity is purely there so I can get 7 shots in my face puncher, which is kind of important for survivability when you're down. Quick Breather, you know, just help Clone be a little bit more tanky, a little more survivability. Super Sonic Man feeds into Violent Momentum, more damage, you know, just everything you want. Now, Old Jude's really important, because if you don't get a second wind when you go down, you can Old Jude, because our fight for life duration normally isn't very long. Because it isn't very long, you actually do need a way of getting back up. And Clone can normally get you back up, but if you can't, you're going to need Old Jude out. Okay, simple as. since we are actually throwing grenades with duct tape mod, pocket full grenades is nice, but there is a lot of grenade regen in the game passively anyway, because mobs drop a lot of grenades. You have the guardian rank, when 10 kills you get a grenade, but I thought it'd be more beneficial than 1 point in Donnybrook, because I would take at least 1 point here, so I thought may as well take 2. Boom Enhance makes clones stronger, tankier, everything about clone just better, so get Boom Enhance. Like a Ghost isn't normally that great, but you know, we're not using barrier, and we're not really healing that much, so having a chance to ignore bullets, you probably won't notice it, but it just seems like a quality of life that it just helps a little bit. So I would recommend it, but don't recommend Trick or Light though. Don't ever get Trick or Light, because you're just going to kill yourself, cry yourself, and things are not going to be nice. I don't recommend it. And a lot of things we're using don't scale well with Trick or Light either. So Trick or Light doesn't scale, it slows you down, doesn't feed into Groundbreaker, so I wouldn't recommend it. And then Double Barrel to give Clone Sandtalk to make him stronger, better, everything you want.
All the fun.
So the basic gameplay loops for this build are as follows. You're going to be throwing Clone out with the Sandhawk so he can freeze targets and get CC to trigger and keep you alive just in case you go down. You're going to throw Barrier, and then as you throw Barrier you're going to swap to the Pestilence and kill yourself. When you kill yourself, Barrier goes down, you get your Nova, and then hopefully you get back up too. Now also another thing is when it comes to bosses with multiple phases like Scourge, Anathema, people like that, you're gonna want to use Clone more as your single target damage for the bosses. You can stack Groundbreaker on the mobs they spawn, kill them, and then shoot the boss. That will work, that is effective. But Clone does the job a lot easier and a lot safer. So I would recommend just use Clone for bosses with multiple phases like and Wotan. But you can go for that. It's not a thing it is possible. Right? And then yeah, you just rinse and repeat this cycle. And you just do lots of damage, lots of explosions. Everything just goes. And yeah, that's it. That's the build. That's what I've been using. It's what I've had fun playing. Now, when it comes to some bosses, you do need kill skills. That's why I have a Scene Dead with a purple sticky. Low level. Just hit yourself twice. Get your kill skills. And then you can use a Snowdrift to buff up your Pestilence, because Violent Momentum only buffs Face Puncher and the Pestilence in our build effectively. Technically does buff the Eruption and the Sandal, but we don't normally use those to kill. And yeah, and then you can just slide. So you swap to Pestilence and then slide, and that would buff the Pestilence really high. That would deal damage to the boss, deal damage to you, both of those which stacks Groundbreaker, and then our Nova Shields deal damage to the boss, which kills the boss. Yeah. So you do a lot of this, and all of it gets 390 as well for some reason. Just because I don't know, it just does. So you can slide kill Grave Ward with this. Now Grave Ward's a little bit more difficult because you actually have slide kill and crit in his chest. If you ever want to do the slide kill but don't have the OC, don't have a Scene Dead, you can respec the tree. If you're doing that sort of kill, you'll respec the tree to get Seeing Red, get Violent Momentum, Violent Speed, Death Rolls Close, and that's it. You don't actually need anything else for the boss kill. Because you don't need Distributed Denial because you're triggering your own Nova Shield, and you don't need Clone because you're planning to kill him. Now obviously you can use Clone to kill him, but that's up to you. And yeah, that's the build. It's made me enjoy Zane in a whole different respect, and I love it for that. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Enjoy.